Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another response to community feedback. It doesn't say feedback; it says update, but whatever. Anyway, today's March 30th in the year 2017, not 2018, and it's about unit changes. So, hello everyone. This week, we're going to start talking about what we're thinking about for potential upcoming balance patch. The main intention here is to ensure that our goals are aligned with the community and to collect any feedback on what else should we be looking at for balance updates. So, this is not really what they're saying. I took a quick glance through this. This is actually a design change. Balance on the whole for StarCraft 2, at least from what I've been seeing, has been reasonably okay. You know, no one's... I don't know that any matchups are still regularly breaking 45% or 55%. And better player still wins. Balance doesn't matter. So I'm more interested in... changes that are design-based, which is why I wanted to talk about this, because this is cool. So, first thing is Thor. We haven't been seeing as much mech play as we like, and the Thor is often referenced by the community as being trash. In addition, the Thor is rarely used in high-level play, except to soak against banelings, and we think it's a good target for a buff. Since the Thor is mostly being used for zoning out enemy flying units, we think it would be good to buff that aspect of the unit, to give it a more clear and defined role. However, it would be important to make sure that any changes don't make the unit too much of an all-around unit. It should be something you build a few of for AA purposes, and not to be the backbone of your army. Oh shit, I've been killing people with Mass Thor for like a month now. Okay. Thor anti-air buff. There really needs to be an upgrade, like Charon boosters or something, so that the Thor can... do either shoot... it's such a weird thing. The Thor's anti-air is actually really good. So this confuses me. The biggest problem with the Thor is that all of Terran mech anti-air is the Thor. That's actually the real issue. Because if you're playing first... let's just lay it out here. Lay out a scenario. Your opponent goes for a proxy Stargate into an Oracle, right? You open with maybe a Cyclone or a Widowmine because you want to play mech. You defend the Oracle. Maybe you kill it. Maybe you don't. But it doesn't kill you. It doesn't do game-winning damage, right? Protoss player proceeds to make 4 or 5 Phoenix out of that Stargate. It's extremely common and popular right now to play Phoenix Adept versus Bio. So almost every Protoss player is opening Stargate these days. Now, let me ask you this. Assuming that the Protoss player is not literally just massing Phoenix and is also maybe getting upgrades, Twilight Council tech behind this. The biggest issue right now with mech versus Protoss is that versus Stargate, there's not really anything you can do at the start of the game. If you want to move out with Cyclones, not only does Graviton Beam reset the lock-on, but the lock-on doesn't really do damage. And Phoenix have a lot of health, and Cyclones are not good anti-air. Obviously, you can see where I'm going with this, but if they want to make tweaks, I'm just telling you where the hard problems are. If you are playing mech versus Protoss, you cannot leave your base if there is a Stargate, because simply put, 10 Phoenix can do an insane amount versus you. And Thors do not come out fast enough, so it kind of encourages turtle play. That's just coming from someone who's played a lot of mech. I don't play the Raven stuff. I do mech into BCs, and the biggest reason why I do mech into BCs is because if they go Stargate, there's not anything that you can do with Factory. I've tested a bunch of scenarios. You could go to unit test yourself. You want to put 3/3 Thors versus carriers? Be my guest. The interceptors actually spread out just enough to not die to Thor anti-air splash. Also, they will still kill some of your stuff, and the interceptors are much cheaper than your mech units. So, just putting this out there. You either have to make the Thor able to kill carriers, which will allow you to play a more factory-based mech in the end game, at which point, by the way, the Thor becomes the backbone of your army, because you need a lot of Thors to do that. And then if they add 10 Zealots into your army. So that's one thing. The other thing is, as far as like issues with mech, this is just being versus Protoss, the Hellion sucks. Hellion sucks versus Zealots. The Hellion sucks versus Adepts. The Hellion sucks versus Stalkers. It sucks versus Immortals. Disruptors. Well, you can dodge the shot, I guess. You're not really fighting Hellions versus Disruptors that often. It's bad against the Colossus. The Cyclone can trade against a lot of these units. The Cyclone is the only good unit that you can build at the start of the game if you want to play mech. Then you need to get to siege tanks so that you don't die to a push. It's very common. One of the most popular ways that people try to kill me when I'm playing mech, or when you watch pro gamers play mech, there's a big bust on the third base or something like that. All right. So you cannot just rush up to Thors, is my point. You cannot just rush straight up to Thors. Your gas goes into Cyclones for early game defense. If you want to play Mech versus Protoss, that's the only way, because Stargate, a couple of Phoenix will counter Raven harass. They'll counter any Banshee harass. The Thor change is one way of solving the late game issue, because Thors get absolutely demolished by carriers, which counter Mech extremely well, unless you get battle cruisers. At which point, things get a bit crazy. But my biggest problem right now is in that area. I actually don't think the Thor is bad at all versus Zerg. Thors kill Hydras in 2 volleys. They kill Ravagers in 2 volleys. Maybe if the Thor was able to better handle Swarm Host, but I don't think that is what the game needs. Yeah, so this one's a bit of a weird one for me, because I actually think that the Thor's anti-air is amazing outside of the range issues of trying to hit carriers. Or, well, I mean, really, carriers have a ton of health, and their DPS is insane. So the only thing I could think of that would help that is either more range on the Thor. Obviously, giving it more damage would be pretty disgusting. Or adding armor to the Thor so that it can eat a few more shots. I don't know. The Thor only has 1 armor by default. Whatever, right? I'm just spitballing here. So that's a kind of an interesting topic. Personally, I would like to be able to move out more as a mech player. And obviously, if you buff the Hellion versus Protoss, it'd be disgustingly broken versus Zerg. It's already good versus Zerg. I don't think the Hellion is great versus Terran. But yeah. Anyway, I'm probably too biased to keep talking about that. The Raven. The auto turret is a little too good. Yes, we all know that. You just drop them on top of your opponent's army and they die. And yeah. So lowering the damage to 3-shot range for workers and make it last longer. Right now it lasts 7 seconds. And it does 24 damage a shot, which is enough to 2-shot all workers in the game. I mean, you could just drop it to what? 20 damage, it would only 2-shot probes. 19 damage, it would 3-shot all workers. That's much better, honestly. Especially because it also reduces how fast it would kill Marines. For TVT, that's a really big problem. So I don't mind that. I don't think anybody thought that the Raven was okay in its current state. The PvP matchup, so obviously this is one I can't speak to as much, but basically what it says is because of the turtle sky toss that people in Europe are doing against each other, they're just like, well, here's what we want to do. Take away some of the armored damage from Void Rays and add it to the prismatic alignment. This will make getting cheesed by Void Rays worse or not. I'm not sure what they want to do with this. To me, this says Void Rays do like, what, 12 damage versus armored and +6 for prismatic alignment. Maybe it'll be 10 versus armored and +8 for prismatic alignment. So I think if they do it like that, it's actually a pretty elegant way to solve it. It just reduces the Void Ray's power. This also helps with like shit like Corruptors and stuff. Because you can reduce the power of the Void Ray while simultaneously keeping it still good where it needs to be good, which is in the big fights. But it would make it easier to poke a Protoss player that's using Void Rays. Since Void Rays are hit scan and not projectile, Blink isn't very useful against them. So if you want to dance around Void Rays, this will kind of help, I guess. So we want Tempest to be more effective against capital ships to encourage players to build a more varied army composition. So basically, they want Tempest to be an option to deal with carriers. Yeah, I mean, the biggest strength of carriers is that they break the AI of everything that they're fighting against. But okay, I can see it. PVZ. We don't think we're seeing enough variety. Oh, Adepts are good units with prisms. They 2-shot drones and Zerglings. And with resonating glaives, they can kill roaches and queens. Don't listen to Terry. Yeah. This is the most encouraging statement I've ever seen from an official Blizzard post. While we aren't necessarily seeing an imbalance, we want to make sure the meta doesn't get boring. This is actually the most important sentence in this whole entire community feedback update, because this is one of the first times since patch 3.8 where someone from Blizzard has actually come and talked about making the game more interesting. Thank you for this post, Blizzard. I'm not the expert on PvP. I can see how this would help, though. You're reducing the overall DPS of Void Rays, but keeping that strength when they're in prismatic alignment. And for PvZ, I can see that, you would want to try to mess with some stuff. But Adepts are extremely good versus Terran, obviously, right now. Not overpowered,
Viewer subscription
but a lot of people
reactivated.
use them.
5 months.
Thank you,
and Terran
Grub00,
Mech still
for
isn't
the
viable,
resub.
baby rage.
I think Mech is viable, personally. I've seen enough people do it, and I've done it enough times myself that, yeah. So, anyway, yeah, having the prism be a slow warp power field, well, stuff like that, that would definitely remove some of the frustrating parts of that from the game, because getting a prism out fast is extremely difficult to deal with. But yeah, pretty good community feedback update. The TLDW, if you are watching the end of the video, would be that the Thor, they want to make it better versus air. Personally, I think they need to buff the mid game. The Thor needs an armory to be built. You're not building an armory before you have 3 CCs, which means you cannot leave your base. You have to turtle if you want to play mech because your anti-air sucks. The old Cyclone was actually really good at being able to move out in the early mid game, which was the reason why I liked it versus Protoss and Zerg. However, the Raven change, they're nerfing it. Thank God. PvP change, Void Arrays are better in... Void Arrays are the same in fights. They're worse outside of fights. PvZ, nerfing adepts. All right, guys, that's been a response to community feedback. Hope you guys like this. Make sure to post this shit everywhere and only upvote it if you want to, because I'm not allowed to tell you to upvote it.